But I ain't evil. I gots to feed 'em, and I do. But they ain't never coming down. Do you want to know how they ended up there? There I went again, bobbing my head up and down. Because I'm just so damn nosy. It was a beautiful Sunday afternoon. My belly was full of good food, and I watched as a lone black fly tried its best to land on my banana pudding, but I wouldn't let it. Mrs. Adler already ate hers, while she slowly told me a story of her 3 scarecrows in the field. She didn't have to tell me anything. I know how to keep a secret. If I didn't run my mouth back then, why would I do that now? Mrs. Adler pointed at her scarecrows and said, "My great-grandpa taught me how to do that." The old woman told me of how her entire family was from a long line of witches, and that she was taught the way as well. When I first moved here, lots of people used to come to me to have their cards and fortunes read, and for remedies. People paid top dollar to come and see me, especially women who desired to reunite with their lovers, women who wanted children, or some young girl who wanted to know if her boyfriend was cheating. My only intention was to help people in this town, until those 3 came along and tried to ruin my life. Mrs. Adler was on a roll while she told her story. It would be rude for me to try to interrupt her now. All I could do was stare out into the field, trying to picture what she was saying. No one had an issue with what I did but the Reverend Pritchard and his family. The Reverend used to look down on me and my family. He made it so that the whole community stopped coming to me. Why would he do that, knowing that this is how I made my money? Then the town started to hate me. They drive by my house throwing things. If they go to church, why would they treat me like that? They had no cause to treat me that way. The dear Reverend's sons did the most damage. Once I found out that they were the ones coming out here to make trouble for me. I went to Reverend Pritchard, and I told him to tell his boys to stop coming by my place. And do you know what he said to me? "Mrs. Adler, there is no rest for the wicked." Can you believe that? He called me wicked. If you ask me, he was a charlatan. It wasn't until your parents moved into this place that I felt kindness from others. The boys would come by here and make a lot of trouble for me. They threw dead animal carcasses into my well. They dumped their trash in front of my yard. But the last straw for me was when they set my crops on fire. I knew it was them. I approached the Reverend as gently as I knew how, but again he told me, "Woman, leave my house." I looked after rabbits and chickens, but one by one they picked them off with slingshots and BB pellets. I went to the police, but of course they were friends of the dear Reverend. It ain't until they hurt my Lester that I got the notion to do what I did to them. Mrs. Adler fell strategically silent. I wanted to know more, so I asked, "What did you do?" She knew I wanted to know more. She stood up and went back into the house to put water in her tea kettle. Back on the porch, she sat in her chair and lit a pipe. Well, it was simple. I had to wait for the perfect moment. The first thing I did was bought a cow tongue. I wrote their names on it, Lyle, Uriah and Carmichael. First Lady Pritchard could have saved herself a whole lot of heartache if she could talk to that man and convince him to discipline his sons. Again, the old woman fell silent. I began to realize she felt silent to make sure I still was interested in what she had to say and continue her story. So I asked, "Why the cow tongue, Mrs. Adler?" "To keep them silent, of course. If you take a cow's tongue and write the name of those you want silent on it with ashes, they do go silent. I nail the tongue to a tree and let it rot there. It represents their tongues becoming useless so they couldn't tell another soul what was happening to them. After I did that, I knew things were going to get worse." What am I doing here? Is this old woman for real? The buzz I felt earlier was completely gone. I wish I had a stiff drink right now. The way she was talking, I knew she wasn't senile. She kept her eyes on the field as she spoke. After I nailed the tongue to the tree, all hell broke loose for them boys. It was what they deserved. They nearly killed my Lester. His car flipped over trying to get away from them. They chased him clear across town. He almost made it home, but he lost control of his truck and flipped into a ditch. I was none the wiser. All I knew was that my Lester did not come home. I went looking for him and found him. Oh, it was horrible. His recovery was slow and he was never the same. To add insult to injury, those boys never paid for what they did to my husband. So I fixed it. The good Reverend defended his boys. He even lied for them, saying they were home in the day in question. Mrs. Adler said the boys started having trouble at home. They refused to confess. So one by one they all went mad. They accused her of being a witch. But that is what she is. One night those fools came to my house to start some trouble. And well, they ended up in that field to guard over my garden, and that's where they gonna stay. Word got around quickly that the Pritchard boys went missing. The same authorities that refused to do anything about my husband came asking me questions about their whereabouts. I told them I didn't know nothing. The Reverend and his wife moved away, not knowing what happened to their sons. After her confession, she sat on her porch talking about everything else but the Pritchard boys. At about 7, she started yawning and said she was going to go inside for the evening. I walked back home, confused and curious. I needed to know. I had to know what this old woman told me was the truth. Curiosity killed the cat, and it was killing me right now. When I got home, I showered. I watched TV until about midnight. Turning off the television and all the lights in the house, I decided to step out onto my porch. I sat on the steps, smoking cigarette after cigarette, watching and waiting.